Hey everyone, this is Alan McKay and welcome to episode 40. I'm here with Zsolt Poczos and we are talking about following your dreams and doing a lot of really amazing stuff, getting out of your comfort zone and hitting the mark with your career. Zsolt works on movies like Independence Day 2. He's got a very amazing career, which we're going to dive right into. So let's get in there.
Welcome to the Alan McKay Podcast. Alan is an Emmy Award-winning visual effects artist and mentor to many leading industry experts. Listen in as Alan talks with other industry leaders in film, video games, and visual effects about their experience, lessons, and methodology. Alan will teach you pivotal advice to fast-track your career, better your skills, and reach your ultimate dream job. Check out the latest episodes on alanmckay.com.
Hey everyone, this is Alan McKay and welcome to episode 40. I can't believe I'm already up to 40 episodes in the past year. It's been really awesome. So I have a really cool episode I'm doing with Zsolt Poczos, who, and again, I swear Zsolt's going to kill me. I can never say his name right, but we're going to be talking about a lot of his background, his career. Zsolt is a really amazing guy who came from Hungary from an architectural background, which I'm really starting to see a commonality with a lot of the amazing artists that I bring on here typically seem to come from architecture. It's one of those things. So it's been kind of interesting to hear his story, and I wanted to do an episode around this because I find it to be really fascinating. Zsolt is a CG supervisor who's worked for so many different companies on a lot of photoreal architecture as well as photoreal car commercials, a lot of other really cool stuff. Now, Zsolt is working on Independence Day 2 at the moment, hence the picture of him with Jeff Goldblum, which we put up as the cover. I thought it'd be a kind of fun one to put up. And he's obviously working with a lot of talented guys over there, and it's doing some really amazing stuff. And what I wanted to cover is more his whole story of coming from Hungary back in the day to doing so many things that we practice throughout this entire podcast, throughout the kind of lessons that I want to push on a lot of you, which is about how to build your career up and how to really create your own opportunities. And a lot of what we discuss here is exactly proof of that in action, where Zsolt has done such an amazing thing multiple times with really getting out of his comfort zone and going to London just on a whim to create his own future, his career there, doing what he wanted to do. And again, doing the same thing in the United States, again, at a later date. He's done a phenomenal amount of work, and his story, I think, is really inspiring. I'll leave it there, but I figure let's just dive in and hear what he's got to say. You started out in Hungary like 15, 16 years ago or whatever, doing what you do. So, I mean, back there, and what were the type of jobs you were typically doing? Like, was it more car commercials then, or is it more different kind of stuff?
It started with architectural visualizations.
One of them, okay.
And I'm one of those. Mm-hmm. Architecture, design, cars, and everything else.
So some people who work as like a producer, they start off as a runner or something in London and, work their way up. And it seems like everyone in 3D, if you want to be good, you start in architecture and then eventually switch over to blowing shit up or doing cars or whatever else.
Well, basically, the long story short, I was at university studying mechanical engineering, mm-hmm. and I couldn't care less about it. It didn't excite me, not at all. And I left. I never finished it. And for a while, I was chasing ideas how to make money.
Yep.
They did not work out. So I started coming to my senses, and I was looking for something that I have the talent for, which was drawing. Mm-hmm. And there were no 3D applications and this and that. Probably there was the DOS version of Max,
right?
Which I never heard about before.
So what year was this?
It was around 98, mm-hmm. 99-ish.
Okay.
And so drawing. what can I do with drawing?
You go to Venice Beach and do caricatures of people as they walk past.
Not necessarily. I was in Budapest, in Hungary, and one day, it was the Hungarian music TV channel. I'm watching an interview with a cool guy. He had long hair. He was big as a house, and turns out he was an architect and interior designer, and he had this very flamboyant approach to everything. And I thought, okay, I want to be around that guy. So I did some digging, not on the internet because there was none, or at least I didn't have access to it. It was the telephone book.
Right.
I called the guy and I asked for a meeting. I told him who I am, what I'm trying to do, and I would love to learn from him. And that was my first step, utilizing getting the side door approach. Just spotting somebody, being very inspired by him, and approaching him directly.
So what was his response, first of all, to you just kind of cold calling him and saying, hey, teach me?
He said, come by.
That's great.
And bring your work.
And I'm kind of interested about this. So first of all, what made you what made that kind of light turn on saying, okay, I want to kind of model myself after this person? What were the character traits that made you suddenly say, I like this guy, or I like the status or whatever that he is?
I think it was mainly two things. His entire demeanor, the way he was talking about his work, himself, and it came through that this guy loves his job and he's a master of his job. And I found that very, very, very impressive. He was immersed in this stuff.
That's great.
So talking to the client, getting their vague ideas, and just grabbing a piece of paper, a pen, and start drawing and put their ideas on paper. And of course, he was involved from the very first sketches through construction of entire homes, or just apartments, or restaurants, bars, and that whole process and the idea of being involved in that process, from the first sketch to handing over the keys.
Yeah.
It excited me so much that I cannot even begin to describe.
And I'm just going to ask one more question about this. I'm kind of curious, maybe it's a bit personal, but if you can remember back to that state of mind, did you want to be him, or did you more see it as this guy's a great connection to have to help me with my career, or what's your mindset there? Because everyone has those people that they that is exactly who I want to be, or it's that is a great opportunity for me, or that person will push me to the status I want to be, or what was the thing that made you want to reach out?
Back then, I didn't develop the mindset of being able to look and plan that far ahead. That came much later. You just
want to be near it.
I kind of matured late in that respect.
I think some people never mature. So,
And I think it was more like a short to midterm kind of thing. I just wanted the involvement, and I wanted the possibility and the opportunity to learn from him.
Great.
And experience his entire process and his business every single day.
So you want to be around it, essentially. Yeah.
Yes.
That's great. And so when you called him up, you said, come by and bring your work. What happened?
I came by, I brought my work. I was, of course, I was nervous as hell.
I'm sure.
And I think it was that interview when I was holding my drawings, etc. And I learned there, when you are in that state of mind, never hold a piece of paper in your hand. It's going to shake like a leaf.
Yep.
And he gave me the opportunity. He said, it's going to be a unpaid apprenticeship. I'm going to get you involved on sketching. You will come with me to visit clients. who will come with me to construction site. Everything I dreamt of, it was offered
That's great.
On a pretty much silver plate. And it didn't pay a penny, but that was kind of the price. You know, it was a two-way relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, let me just cut in for 1 second. I'll say that like there is this whole thing, and I want to just clarify about that, because even myself, like I'm very against like people working for free, because it's, you know, you're essentially lowering the bar. And it's like it creates this massive imbalance within the industry, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in.
Yeah.
I don't know why there's a fruit fly managed to get in. But there's a difference, and I think it's worthwhile explaining that there's a difference between it's like a little fruit fly. There's a difference between working for free in terms of you go work for a studio, you're like, let me work here and I'll do it for free. I'll do whatever it takes. And they're like, great, let's take advantage of someone. And then there's, let me essentially commit myself to this person and learn from their experience and essentially be fully immersed in their experience and gain from it.
Yeah.
Where for them, it's more, you're helping them out a little bit, but it's probably going to be a lot more work on their behalf. It's not like taking advantage of someone. It's more like, okay, well, I'm going to commit myself to teaching and giving to this person.
Yeah.
And in exchange, they're going to make my life a little bit easier. It's not like I'm offloading my work onto them. And so there's a very big difference between working for free and essentially an unpaid apprenticeship. And for you, like that is worth its weight in gold. That's going to be 5 years or 2 years of your experience, like you get right away. And most people don't have access to that. So
it's kind of an accelerator.
Yeah.
And I think I'm completely on the same page with you. Do not work for free. And this is something that I would consider kind of an exception at the very beginning or before you've got something that you can call a career.
Mm-hmm.
This is how you can pay your dues.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get into something that is not being taught in any educational institute, then you find a way. You create that opportunity where you can learn from somebody who you look up to.
Yeah. And colleges like are not going to give you that experience. Like that's the big difference. Like now, if I need help with something, I hire a consultant. I pay $1,000 a day or whatever to be able to pick their brain for a little bit of time because it's worth weeks of my time to have gone and tried to figure it out on my own. But you go to a college or something, you're not going to get that. You're going to get people who have, they're not at that level that you're wanting to model yourself after. So that's great. And so you followed him around and you got immersed in this whole environment. Like, what was it like?
It was amazing. It was amazing because seeing how one person can drive an entire process from the very first seed of a design thought. He spoke to the potential client. He got the wind of what they wanted, but of course they couldn't describe it properly because they are not designers.
Yeah,
they are not architects.
He's got to be intuitive and interpret it. Yeah.
Absolutely, and to a certain extent, you have to wear many hats because you have to be able to get on the same page with them and synchronize your thoughts with their desires and put everything on paper. And seeing how everything developed from those very first conversations to later drawings and architectural and CAD plans and through the construction. It was amazing, for example, to walk into brand new shopping centers still under construction.
Cool.
The likes of Westwood, where
I'm thinking of the Die Hard building, like the Fox Studios building. You can actually see it from here, but where it's like totally under construction while they're filming the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you kind of sense that special feeling that there are only bare walls full of construction workers, and you can already envision what's going to happen here based on the drawings, based on the conversations, based on the mood boards and the materials. If you get the idea of what they want, you can already without seeing, without being able to close to certain materials and colors and fabrics, you can just feel them with your fingers. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you are immersed in the whole thing, and seeing how those things came to life. Mm-hmm. It was, I think it was a priceless opportunity.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
It's pretty cool. There's been lots of restaurants and bars I've been invited to like come check out while they're being constructed. And so I think to me, that's my translation of it is like going to a bar before it's been opened and being able to like see, you know, all the pieces being put together. It's like, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to sit in that corner.
I'm going to have fun here.
Exactly. Start putting your requests in. Like, can we, you know, have a little lounge at the back?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool. And I don't know, I mean, we talked a lot the other week. We went out for drinks and, well, I mean, there was a lot of points that you were kind of talking about that I kind of figure if you want to drive a little bit the conversation, but I mean, you know, I'd love to get your kind of insight on a lot of this stuff.
All right. Considering that this conversation is supposed to be kind of a case study, just to demonstrate it to many guys out there, youngsters, girls and boys, that it can be done. I thought that elaborating on all those methods and points that you keep raising in your podcast, how to develop, improve, even start your career, I think it would be great to, as a case study, bring up personal examples and demonstrate how and why they work, mm-hmm. how they help you, and the way they help you will help you anyone else who has the drive and the ambition and the ears to listen, and the energy to apply themselves. And one of those points I find really critical is, we have just touched up on it for a moment. Be a hustler and try to get in through the side door and create your own opportunities. And with this architect and interior designer, that was the very first one I have ever done. And I thought that mentioning a few more examples where it brought success and also where or when it didn't work out would be useful for many. One of those occasions was I was in the UK around 2008 or 9. Yeah, 8. I believe it was 8. Mm-hmm. The recession just started collapsing so many things. And being in architectural design or visualization, you are one of the first industries and people who are being hit. This design, construction, they are hit, and they are being hit really hard. And I thought, okay, let's plan ahead a little bit and let's try to move away from this whole, recession thing that damages careers and lives. So I put on two countries on my list where I expected to be away based on what I knew or what I thought I knew about these places. One was Switzerland, and after doing a little bit of research,
probably the most stable economy in the world.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
I had to realize that due to its geographical attributes and size, there isn't much of a construction industry there. And I had to weigh up my chances.
You probably want to target places that have a lot of growth, not places that have grown and become stable. So Shanghai and a few places like that, I'm sure.
In one hand, there was Switzerland in its stability. In the other, there was Dubai with its insane pace of growth and development.
Yep. Let's build a new city overnight. Literally. Let's grow a new city.
First, let's come up with the idea that we are building the most amazing city, and
then we'll grow an island, and then we'll populate it and
sell it to investors. Yep. So they bring in the money we don't have, or we don't want to spend.
I got some friends in architecture who did essentially the pre-visualization of the Ferrari city that they have there, which is an entirely enclosed, massive city tent. It's just insane, like the shit they're doing there. I mean, it's kind of like, what do we want to do today?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing.
So the way it worked, I found a company. They had offices in the UK, and I approached their London office saying that I cannot get through to your Dubai office.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately, if you realize that you don't get a response, then try to get in through the side door.
Mm-hmm.
And I managed to land an interview with a fantastic guy in London. And at the end of the interview, he asked me, after I expressed my intentions that I would love to move to Dubai and work in your Dubai office, he asked me, don't you want to work here instead?
Mm-hmm. Great.
which was amazing. It was amazing.
And the way you approached that, I think this is one that you were telling me the other day, was that rather than emailing like the receptionist or HR or someone where, essentially you go the traditional route, you know that you're going to be a needle in a haystack. You're going to be one of 1,000 applicants.
Yes.
So I think you went, a different direction, which was, okay, I'm going to email the CEO of the company directly.
Yes, that happened a couple of weeks later, because this guy, unbelievably, he passed on my material to the managing director of the Dubai office.
Mm-hmm.
And amazingly, he forwarded me the managing director's response to his email. And he said that, get this guy ASAP.
That's great.
And it blew my mind. I was over the moon. So what happened then, of course, he passes everything on to his HR team.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing came to a halt.
Right.
So I waited a week. I got in touch. Nothing. Another week, I called the Dubai office and I asked for the managing director.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, actually, he's in Scotland. And I said, oh, amazing. We are on the same piece of land. So
that's right.
I'm one step closer.
That's right.
And I put everything on one card. I asked the receptionist, can I have his mobile number, please? 99 times out of 100, the answer is no. And you know that.
But you never know unless you ask.
Exactly. Right? And I got his number.
Mm-hmm.
I called him. It was a Sunday. And I very quickly, briefly introduced myself. And he said, oh, yes, I remember. Do you think you could fly out to Dubai next Wednesday?
Great. Wow.
And I said, actually, I didn't know what to say. I wasn't prepared.
I hadn't planned that far ahead.
No.
I had hello. That's where I was up to.
I told him that I'm in Yorkshire. I'm in the middle of the UK. I hear you are in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
If you have the time,
do you want to grab lunch?
I get in my car. I drive up there.
Have some haggis.
Yes. And he said, unfortunately, I'm on my way down to Heathrow and I'm flying to Dubai, but please do come over. And,
so would you meet him at the airport or what?
No, we didn't meet on that.
Oh, come over
day.
to...
yes.
Yeah.
The next 2 weeks we're arranging flight tickets, hotel visa, etc. Mm-hmm. And I got the job.
That's cool. So you would set out a goal like, I want to find somewhere abundant to go to, and there was Switzerland on one hand, and then there was Dubai, and you managed to hit that mark. That's great.
I think it's there is a people tend to say quite often that you are so lucky. Mm-hmm. I think to a certain extent, to a very little extent, there is luck in everything. There is luck involved, because starting with the guy willing to respond to my email in London, mm-hmm. the receptionist in Dubai willing to give me the managing director's phone number, I consider it luck, because sure. I had no control over those things. But I think 90% of it is your dedication, your drive, and how you convey yourself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because I think those things raise interest and the desire to get you on board, because you are the kind of person or you the kind of professional who offers the certain skills they are after mm-hmm. at that point.
Yeah.
So I think this is one of those really great examples of what you keep saying, that create your own opportunities.
Definitely.
And it works. Of course, it doesn't work always. It worked a couple of years ago. I approached a company in Germany, and this company at the time they were employing some 800 people, and they were looking for a person in I believe it was in Shanghai. So I sent in my application, no response whatsoever. So I get on LinkedIn, and I found the CEO of the company.
Yep.
And it's a gamble, because why on earth a CEO of a 800 plus company would take not a second look, a first look at you.
Yep.
But you ask, you send an invitation, and in that invitation, just very briefly, very politely, you say that I'm amazed by what you have done with your company in 10 years. And just so you know, I have just applied for a position in Shanghai, and I would love to show you what I've got to offer.
Mm-hmm. That's good. You're being humble and,
yes,
down to earth about it. So.
And you don't make it about yourself.
Yeah.
You make it about, it's kind of a business offering. They are looking for something, and you think you've got it. Mm-hmm. You've got it, what they are looking for, and you are trying to find a way to make them listen to you that, hey, I think I've got what you are looking for, and I would like to demonstrate it or prove it, whatever. And I think that was probably the fastest ever response on anything I have done on LinkedIn before.
Oh yeah.
He got back within the hour, and pretty much these were his exact words. Good to hear from you. Why don't you come over to Munich, work in our head office first, and then you can look into where else in the world and in our other offices you want to move to. It was
that's pretty amazing.
It was amazing, and it was. You know what? It was one of those cases which I consider a semi-success. Because unlike the Dubai job, here I wasn't offered a job in Munich. They offered me a job in Brussels. Mm-hmm. So it was successful and not at the same time. And it was up to us, my wife and myself, to decide whether we wanted to move to Brussels.
Yeah.
And we decided not to after visiting Brussels, and we came to that decision for whatever reason.
The waffles didn't have you convinced.
And of course, the other end of the scale is when you try to say that same approach, you get to a certain point, but at that point most people would call it you fail.
Mm. Yep.
But we have just talked about it. I want people to, or I recommend it to people to erase that word from the vocabulary, because you do not fail. You, at that task, at that challenge, at that moment in your life, you did not succeed. It's a road bump. It's nothing else. It's
a learning experience. I mean, we just mentioned beforehand, but I mean, like, same way I'll use the analogy used before, but like you touch the stove and you burn your hand, you learn from that experience. You're never going to touch the stove again. You're going to say, okay, now I know I'm not going to do that again. And like, we've talked about this before, but like, for the longest time in my career, I've always been like, I've been really lucky, because it's more of I've always felt like a humble way of, saying like, I've been really lucky in my career or whatever. And I've started to kind of retrain myself to stop saying that, because I think it's worthwhile, owning if you have had some success, then like acknowledge that. And it's like, okay, I will say I've been very fortunate in my career. I've worked my ass off, and I don't want to downplay it. It's like, I killed myself for many years to get to where I'm at, but there's also luck involved too. But I think it's more about like, you should acknowledge that rather than say, okay, well, I've been really lucky as all timing, or I met someone. But I do think that there's also luck, but the big thing about luck is that you're either going to have it or not. It's got nothing to do with luck. It's about creating, as you were saying, the opportunity. It's like you got to be in it to win it. And if you don't create that opportunity, then that luck isn't going to happen. And it's more about a numbers game. If you're going out every day, like if you email 5 people a day randomly just to say, hey, there's an opportunity 5 times a day that something great could happen. But if you decide, whatever, I don't want to do that in case like no one emails me back, so you don't try at all, then you have 100% success rate of failing. It's like there's nothing ever going to happen. So it's more about putting yourself out there and making yourself available for all those opportunities. And if you do that, then you don't know what the hell can happen. And I'm actually going to, I've done this a lot in the past, and essentially it's outreach, but I want to start doing it more, where it's just kind of forcing myself to kind of reconnect with a lot of friends, a lot of relationships I've got that I just haven't had time to. And it's more about just get off my ass and do it, because it's more, I might email someone, they might say, hey, I was just thinking about you, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And the thing is that it doesn't need to be a selfish reason. It can be I need to push myself to stay in touch with more people. But you never know when someone's going to say, hey, can you actually come out this week or whatever? And the more you create these opportunities, the more opportunities you'll have. It's simple math at that point. So
100% agree. It happened just last Saturday or Sunday. I called up a friend. I told him that, hey, you said when you wrap up on your project in February, you would call me. I never heard back. And I asked him how he was, what he was doing. And next thing you know, he said, where I am, actually, there might be a position for you.
Oh, great.
So exactly, just to back it up, what you have just said with a real life example, it's you are 100% right. You need to keep those connections alive, just out of genuine interest, because you don't know what comes out of it.
Yeah.
If nothing comes out of it, you just maintain a relationship with a friend, and you just ask them. It's a good feeling to be called by somebody and being asked how I'm doing, right? And it can possibly lead to so many things.
Yeah,
and more often than not, it does.
And that's where it's kind of like the whole, oh, he's very lucky. It's like, well, yeah, you're creating that opportunity. You're actually going out there and making that happen. And I think a lot of people, they are afraid of failure, rejection, or like what if. So most people kind of fall in this category of like, well, if I do this, then what if I fail? And because of that, they limit themselves from ever actually doing anything. And this blows my mind. Like I see it all the time. And I think when we last chatted, I kind of used the analogy of like, you could miss out on marrying the woman of your dreams just because you're afraid to ever actually gone out and said like, hey, how are you? And, do you want to go on a date? Because you might get rejected. So you miss out on a whole lifetime of experiences. And that applies to everything. Like, what if you decide not to go out one night and all this crazy shit could have happened, but you decide to stay in and watch Netflix or whatever. So, yeah.
That analogy completely worked for me when I saw my wife. I saw her 20 years ago in a gym.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, she was.
You were one of those guys who hit on a girl at the gym?
I'm ashamed to admit, but I am.
I'm just going to say that, I'm going to interrupt for 1 second to say, like, there's a guy, he's a No-Mon instructor. He's got a pretty big name, and like hanging out with him one day, and he says to me, it's actually the gym across the street here, 24 Hour Fitness, and he's like, yeah, like when you're hitting on girls at a gym, like you do this and this, and I kind of looked at him like, no, you don't hit on people at the gym. Like people go there to work out, not to, despite the amount of people who wear ridiculous amounts of makeup and, when they're going out. So, but yeah, like he was telling me how he's like doing sit-ups next to this girl and the whole time chatting her up, and she's just clearly kind of shuffling away from him. It's just like, why would you do that? But please continue.
Okay. Thank you for the lead-in.
You're welcome.
Okay, in my defense, she was the first and the last girl I ever hit on in the gym.
Good answer.
And what happened, I was scared shitless.
Mm-hmm.
I saw her working out, standing at this triceps cable machine.
Can I just interrupt and say, like, was your first words to her, yo? Yo, babe.
And I'm glad it's in front of a microphone, not a camera, so I can show you. She was working out, working on her triceps. And this is what I noticed first. So I thought I have to create my opportunity here. And but I was scared. I was scared.
Yeah, that's good.
I wasn't one of those cool guys in the gym with the pecs and the biceps, and they go there and they lean to the wall and they try to chin up. I went there.
You went from the 80s gym. Yeah. You were wearing a muscle shirt, which had a thunderbolt going across.
3 times larger tank tops.
That's right.
And in Hungary, typically
you were
really heavy and thick gold necklaces. Oh, good Lord. So anyway, I go there and I told this to her. Your hair is beautiful. Would you let down your ponytail next time? Because I think it would be even more beautiful.
Okay.
And I kind of ran away.
School style, school grade style.
Yeah, pretty much. And like I said, I matured late. I'm in my early 20s when this happens. I'm not 14.
You can be 30, 40 years old and still scared shitless of approaching someone. That's totally fine.
So, lo and behold, next time, her ponytail was not there. She let her hair down. So I pulled myself together. I walked there and I asked her out. And she said, I had hair. I have to admit, I had hair. I don't know.
Did she ask you to be in a ponytail next time?
Shoulder length hair.
Uh-huh.
I looked like the very genuine version of Skinny Jesus.
I've never heard that before, but okay.
She hated it, and she said, "I'll go out with you if you have a haircut."
I like that though, because it's kind of more of a compliance test to you. It's like I did something, now you've got to do something.
And of course I did.
That's great.
Of course I did. And a month ago we celebrated our 20th anniversary.
Well, cheers to that.
Yeah, so create your own opportunities.
Yeah.
And it's not about the technical details of the success stories or half success stories or lack of success. It's all about the principle that push it. Mm-hmm. Push it, know what you want and go for it.
Get out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. That's one of the points on the list.
Yeah? I do think that that's the big thing, is that most people are afraid to ever do that, and because of that, they don't try. The whole thing about change, if you ever want to evolve and grow and do everything, is you need to get out of your comfort zone. You need to actually do something to make yourself vulnerable, whether it is asking someone out at the gym with long hair, or I've done it occasionally with like some of my more out there friends. Like we've worn wigs and like wear a mullet or something out just to see like what kind of stuff can happen. But yeah, I mean, like by doing that, you're never gonna change, you're never gonna grow unless you are doing something daring. And
absolutely,
I think that every day you should be doing that. Otherwise, nothing's ever gonna really change.
And you keep rightfully bringing it up during the podcast that you have to get out of your comfort zone and keep reinventing yourself. Mm-hmm. And my take on it is one of the best possible ways to do that is sit down, even on a daily or weekly basis, and ask yourself, am I getting from A to B? Mm-hmm. A is where I am, B is where I want to be.
Am I hitting my goals?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do I have them?
Yeah.
If yes, am I taking the steps moving towards them? And best case scenario, your very honest answer is yes. Mm-hmm. But then you can ask yourself, is there any sensible way to do it faster? So again, that way I could get myself out of my comfort zone, because if I have a plan from A to B, I'm somewhere in between. I see the progress, but okay, I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Okay, how can I get there faster? How can I get there in a more efficient way? How can I get there in a more, I don't know. Yeah.
I look at like let's say Chad One Street, who when he was looking at like he wanted to go work at a big studio like Bohr,
yeah,
and he's kind of shocked when he finally went there, and he's like, that was it, like
yeah,
I could have done this a long time ago, and that's just it. Like a lot of us maybe make our goals so grandiose and so unachievable when they're not actually that. Like you could have done it a lot earlier on, and so, you know, you might say something like, okay, my ultimate goal, like actually, I'll turn it on me and to say that my ultimate goal I set for myself when I was about 16, 17 was I want to work in Hollywood. I want to be a technical director, and I want to work on feature films. So live in America, feature films, and be a technical director. And by the time I was 21, I had done all of that, and actually had about a year where I just, for the first time in my life, I didn't have a goal, and I felt very lost because of it. But it's because, like, for me, that was like my lifelong goal, which for whatever reason felt like it would be something I need to work towards for a long time. And suddenly, you know, you realize, you know what, I could do all that sooner. Get bigger goals. B, how can I get to those goals quicker so that way I can move on to the next thing?
Absolutely.
Stepping stones.
The good answer is yes. I'm getting from A to B, and the other answer is actually I have to realize that no, I don't even know where B is or what B is. I don't know where I'm going. I've been
most
here.
People don't have a direction. Like that's the most hard thing to do.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a stagnating situation. So then you need to ask yourself really that, in fact, what did I do today to actually get out of this situation? What did I do this week to get this out of the situation? And if you, of course, you probably have to admit that I didn't do shit. So then suddenly you just need to wake up that inner driven yourself and start pushing things. And then actually, a year ago, I wanted to do this. I wanted to do that. So instead of telling to yourself that I'll get on with that project this weekend or next week, forget that. Just get rid of that mindset and think of it like this, that I'm not going to go out with the guys this lunch break. I sit my ass down. I open up a blank Google Doc sheet and I start filling up the lines with steps and the end goal. Or when I get home tonight, I sit down for an hour or two and I get on with it.
Yep.
You immediately achieve that state of mind where you are out of your comfort zone. You are already pushing yourself.
That's right.
Because you have an idea and you are not delaying it. I think that's critical. Probably that's why most New Year resolutions fail.
Yep.
Right? Because people say that I'm gonna get the beach body, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna start working on it around April.
Yeah.
Screw that. I'm gonna start working on it tonight, right?
I heard this great analogy from Ramit Sethi. He was saying how there's one of his clients. She was saying that she wants to go to the gym and get ripped and the whole spiel. So her philosophy was that her big sticking point was that she wanted to go to the gym 6 times a week. And so he said, the problem was that she never ever went. Yeah. So he said, well, why don't you just try going 1 day a week? And she's like, why would I do that? Why would I just go 1 day a week? And it's just like, that's the first problem, is the fact that you're not looking at stepping stones. It's more like turn it up to 11 every single time. And so showing up 6 days a week, you're failing at, but you don't see showing up 1 time a week as achieving something. But it's like, you've got to start somewhere, And, I think the biggest thing is just if you get to the gym, like that can be the big achievement. And from there, whatever you do, it's better than nothing. But, no, it's good. I think it's a good philosophy to have.
Along the same line of thought, if you feel that you are not really getting anywhere in your current job, not necessarily role and responsibility wise, but just given your daily tasks, then what you can do, this is something that I've been applying. I started at asking for more. Mm-hmm. You know it. Recently, I was offered the amazing opportunity to work on Independence Day 2 after a one-on-one interview with Volker Engel, mm-hmm. who is an Oscar-winning VFX supervisor and company owner.
Usually has the book Making of Independence Day 1 sitting on his table, and if you actually look at the fine print, it's written by Volker Engel. So yeah, he's VFX souped 2012, Godzilla, Independence Day 1, a lot of, I think Day After Tomorrow as well, but like a lot of...
Yeah, White House Down more recently.
Yeah. Actually, not Day After Tomorrow, that was Karen Galikas, but essentially, he's been one of the big names that's been around in the 90s, especially doing all the big Hollywood disaster films.
And just to take a step back regarding getting out of the comfort zone, the entire project or goal to get on this feature was a massive push to get out of the comfort zone, because this is my very first feature experience. Mm-hmm. And while I got to a certain extent in my field where I am a specialist, but the automotive commercials are completely different from feature, mm-hmm. because one is aesthetics driven and product driven, and the whole thing is all about generating interest to sell.
Yeah.
What the art piece you create is a selling tool. Here, everything is story driven. So, getting my mind around that approach and getting into areas where I'm practically a junior. I have never done those things before. Interestingly, I never worked with standard traditional Max lights before, because when I started, I immediately wanted to jump onto
V-Ray lights and everything.
Well, back then it was Radio City.
Oh god, yeah.
Yes.
Well, so you're doing architecture. So.
I don't think I have ever done any scanline renders, and I have never worked with Max lights. So here we are doing a high-end previews, and it has to look very, very decent from a viewport play blast.
Okay, so sorry, just to say, so you're not using V-Ray's interactive renders or anything like that, or you're just doing play blast for it all?
Yes, what you are used to seeing as a traditional previs, we are doing the Volker likes to call it Previs Plus. Mm-hmm. We are doing the high-end version of it. Mm-hmm. Proper lighting, specular highlights, shadows, etc. It looks very, very decent. Mm-hmm. Compared to traditional previs, it looks fantastic.
Yep.
And that's what Roland Emmerich, the director, wants. That is what Volker wants to provide, and that's why we are doing that. So in that respect, again, getting out of the comfort zone, you cannot shy away from being ready to take a step or more steps backwards, mm-hmm. in terms of your position within the hierarchy. Mm-hmm. You cannot be too cool for school.
Yeah.
And if you keep asking for more, try to keep asking for stuff that you do not have the senior experience.
Yeah, because you're learning, you're growing that way.
So after getting or becoming really comfortable with certain types of modeling and texturing, unwrapping, etc., which might be the usual everyday task for many people. Mm-hmm. For some, it's something brand new, and don't shy away from taking up on the challenge. Yeah. And the same thing when I felt that I've got this. My asset supervisor Andre was really happy.
Such a dick, that guy. I'm gonna get him on the podcast pretty soon. But yeah,
I think Andre is amazing, and we have from from day one such a great mutual appreciation and I believe professional respect for each other. It's I love working with him.
He's great. Yeah.
So and dude, his modeling and texturing skills out of this world.
I always give him shit because we're going to do a podcast pretty soon. I've been helping him with some stuff that he's doing on the side, and he's obsessive compulsive almost with the attention to detail he puts into his work. I've never seen anyone model to the extent that he does. Like, you've seen his helicopter stuff that he's doing. It's just, he's a freak of nature. So
he's almost one of a kind. Amazing. So anyway, when you get familiar and comfortable with one task, let's say in this instance, modeling and texturing.
Kill that damn fruit fly. Next time I see it, I'm going to shoot it.
I didn't. You have pets.
Yeah. It was like, there's one little fruit fly that I guess like when we had the door open earlier, just like flew in.
And then I asked to be given animation because I'm fascinated by diversification. You know, I don't think that you can be a master of everything. That's why I really like the idea of yours that familiarize yourself with the, for example, 2 closest areas to your specialist area.
Sure.
So I asked for animation because I'm traditionally specialized on lighting, shading, rendering from my automotive background, and
so at least this way you can bring it to life, you know. Yeah.
And I think there are 2 really close areas. One is compositing, because I think lighting, shading, rendering, and compositing should be so closely connected instead of the generic approach I came across here in LA, that it's kind of separated, and CG people say, yeah, let's load it on the comp guys and fix it in comp, etc.
Right.
I think if you have the understanding and
let's just dump it on someone else.
Exactly. And a certain extent or certain amount of experience how to comp your stuff, you know what to render out. More importantly, you know how much effort you should put into CG, and not more than that, because doing the same thing or taking care of the next stage should be taken care of in comp, because it's faster, it's more efficient, and it's much more easier to adjust at a later stage. I think animation is very similar to it, because when I envision cameras flying around and I think I don't disclose anything that's under NDA, but saying that alien stuff is flying around when you envision it. And
okay, you heard it here first, folks. There's aliens in Independence Day too.
It's if you can envision where you want to put lights, highlights, and shadows, you can already in your mind you can start painting those things.
Right.
I think it's a very good kind of a secondary skill to have, because you can see the whole thing in its entirety in your mind, and it's easier. And that way you can ask the right questions. If you are being told that stuff is flying in from here,
aliens are flying from here, and
or
humans
there,
are over there.
So put your camera there. You can ask the question immediately. Okay, do we have a rough idea where the sun is, what time of the day it is, etc. So you can plan and you put a kind of a plan of action together in terms of how you put all those highlights, shadows, etc. together, because they can be a very, very fantastic secondary contributor to story-driven impact.
I completely agree that like the more you learn about the surrounding areas, the more you both you can take on more work.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it also means that you're more thoughtful about where the work's going. So the whole idea of like, okay, I'm going to create all my renders and I just dump them on the compositor and like, you know, they're off my plate. It's their shit to deal with now.
Yeah.
It's more about, okay, well, the compositor is going to need to pull these elements together. One of the big issues they're probably going to have is that I'll need to, create mats for these things. So that way they have control over tinting the windows on the car or whatever. And the more you understand their role, the more you can make it easier for them, and you can make sure that things are done right the first time, so they never kick back to 3D. Yeah. And so it's not about creating more work for yourself. It's actually about lessening it by making everything greased and function as a machine. So
absolutely.
Yeah. No, I think it's really good.
And there is one last thought from me on getting out of your comfort zone. If it happened to me a few times during my career that I had to realize that at a given place, under a given management, there is nothing more. There is nothing else I could do to get from A to B. Mm-hmm. And I know many people, former colleagues, friends who have been in those positions for years.
Yeah, I think it's most people.
I think it's critical to realize it and not be scared of the idea of moving on. Mm-hmm. The sooner you realize it, that you are in that position, it's kind of a dead end, or your professional development.
Have I hit the peak of what I can achieve
if
at
you
this
have
place?
Plateaued, mm-hmm. for various reasons, because you cannot learn from those, cannot learn any more from those people, or I don't know, you are putting up with some company politics, whatever, doesn't matter. If you realize that you are in such position while you are in it, sooner mm-hmm. than later, start putting a plan together how to move on.
Yeah.
And do it. And your professional life, your personal life, your health, everything, mm-hmm. mentally, you will be so much happier and healthier if you do that.
Absolutely.
And you will find a new challenge.
Because you can easily hit depression from, in a lot of ways, our career is our way of getting fulfillment. Whether we like it or not, it's kind of where a lot of us will find our justification for our existence, and it is to be the best of what we can do at our job. Even if you're not in the mindset of I'm going to be the best, you do find your fulfillment in your work. And if you're not find that fulfillment, then you will find it elsewhere. And so if you're not enjoying the job you do, you will go and you will do that in your spare time. So why not find it in the job that you do? And that's just it. It's kind of like shifting gears where, you accelerate to a certain peak, you shift to the next gear and you do it again. Yeah. And in your job, if you're just running in second gear at full pace, you're not getting anywhere. So you need to identify time to shift up to another gear and keep moving up until you're ready to hit that wall full pace.
You have to. You have only one life. Mm-hmm. Ideally, you will have only one career, and nobody will make the most of it. You have to. You have to do it.
It's entirely on you. I found this plugin the other day for Google Chrome, which disables Facebook's wall, which is really cool. So basically, you get this thing. I forget what it's called, but when you go to Facebook, the entire feed is disabled. Mm-hmm. So when you go there, there's nothing on there. And I think it's really great because it means that you go to Facebook, okay, time to go to Facebook. And it's oh, there's nothing on Facebook. All right, time to get back to what I was doing instead of getting engrossed in a lot of bullshit. Yeah. But what it does do is it replaces it with random quotes. So, Churchill or whatever. But one of the ones that keeps popping up is Tyler Durden. This is your life and it's ending 1 minute at a time. And they keeps popping up. I've seen it maybe 8 or 9 times now. I'm like, that's so fucking true. Time to get back to, but I like that. It's good. One last thing I was going to mention before about, I guess getting out of your comfort zone. I mean, for me, I try and make it a daily thing and I think that everyone can do this, where it's more about if you're constantly growing, you set your goal for the month or whatever it's going to be. And I typically do it as a monthly goal because doing a weekly goal is very easy for one deadline to throw everything off. And I was talking with Rob Niederhorst about this the other day, and we're at lunch and he was talking about how he doesn't like having a calendar, which I kind of agree with, where I put everything into a calendar. I've got a calendar on my wall just so I've got something you can look at and see a bird's eye view of what I've got going on this week, this month. But I also have like my daily calendar, which pops up all the time with you're coming to visit or what I'm doing later and whatever. But it's one of those things. If you're someone who is so OCD, you literally jam pack your calendar with like, okay, morning routine, then breakfast, gym, work, lunch with so and so, whatever else. If you go that far with it, it's kind of counterintuitive because all it takes is one thing to like fall behind by an hour or two, and then your whole day starts to kind of it snowballs, and suddenly your whole week goes out the window. But like having a monthly goal, it's kind of good because you can course correct. Like, this is my goal. This is what I want to do this month. How do I go about it? And by having it as more of a global big goal, it's like, okay, well, this week I fucked up. Let's say gym, whatever. Then fine, I can get back on track the rest of the month. But I think that having daily, like, one thing, like if you had 2 hours a day that you could put towards growing yourself, I think that, whether it's doing tutorials, whether it's doing gym, learning a new language, whatever, but 2 hours is not very hard. Like whether it's you get up earlier in the day or whatever it's going to be, you're able to devote more time to learning and acquiring that thing that otherwise you're like, I'm too busy for myself to get that done. So I think it's really important just to make that little bit of time.
Again, we happen to be on the same page because as a final thought on getting out of the comfort zone, I signed up for your mentorship course.
You did?
Having absolutely zero scripting or FX experience whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And this is, besides personal challenges, this is by so far the biggest professional challenge I set up for myself. Mm-hmm. And the way I do it, normally I get up at 8 o'clock. Since I'm on the course, I get up at a few minutes before 7. Mm-hmm. I sit down, I turn on the workstation, trying to open my eyes.
Yep.
And the way I set up my workstation is that by default, when it starts up, internet connection is disabled.
Great. Okay. That's cool.
On the laptop, the current module, the video of the module is downloaded. It's running. I'm listening, and with no internet connection on the workstation,
no distraction.
I'm just chewing myself through it and try to maintain my sanity.
That's great. I will say the first 3 modules is kind of throwing in the deep end because it's instead of it being like, okay, let's learn how to make a splash. Well, instead it's like, okay, the first 3 weeks is pretty much about a year of, like, I've got another course I did before that, which is a pipeline scripting course. And it's kind of like taking all the big important stuff from that and pushing it through boot camp on you. But it's kind of like, okay, you survive the first 3 modules, then you get into effects. Yeah. But it means that later when we start to do some really crazy shit, instead of you being like, I'm ready to give up, you're like, okay, like I've done shit at the beginning of the course like this. I feel like I can handle it. So it's kind of put yourself in the deep end in the beginning, sink or swim, but it's worth it. I'm kind of curious about that. First of all, I will say that that's great because one of the biggest things I find people say is that they don't have time to do a course. And it's kind of a bullshit excuse because if you're saying that you don't have time to like expand your skills, like you're that busy working, then you got to change something in your life because finding, as you did, 1 hour a day, like in your case, you have the same routine. You didn't change anything. You just got up an hour earlier. Like, great. Most people go to sleep at about 11, 12, whatever. Like, you can survive on 6 hours sleep, no problem. So getting up an hour early, you're not changing a single part of your entire routine. But yeah, you're actually able to create that freedom to actually be able to expand and grow a skill set that will affect everything.
You reevaluate, and I realize that 1 hour is not going to cut it. So I get home in the evening. Sometimes I take a shorter lunch break, so I can get out earlier. I get home. Bernadette and I, we take the dogs out for a walk. We get home. I grab a bite or not, and I sit down for another 2 hours.
Awesome.
And the way to do it, I'm not going to watch TV. I haven't for a while. I skip movies. Have been skipping them for a while, and I just chewing myself through it. I'm in really deep water. I have to admit, it's hard as hell, but
That's how you grow.
That's the part that I enjoy the most. If it was click here and type in 3.5 and you click there and I wouldn't be interested. Honestly. Yes. This is something that really is testing my limits in terms of how can I absorb knowledge, and I love it.
That's great. I had a couple of the guys because I ran it initially in January, and then just now we've reopened it, and like it's kind of cool because a lot of the guys put together like a video testimonial of what they'd done, and I love the fact that one of the guys was saying that usually he'll buy all the courses and he'll watch like a 10-hour course to get that like 15 minutes of information that he didn't know before, and it's worth it just for that. And whereas he found with this course, it's been like literally everything is just like a whole new way of looking at stuff. And I don't know, I definitely, for me, it's been the proudest thing that I've ever put together, just because wait for the fire truck to go by. But yeah, it's been really great for me just because it's, for once, I've made something that I wanted to make sure it would always, like, no matter what length of time, it would always stand up. And like, this is how I work. And this is something I've not seen anyone else kind of work the same way that I do. And not saying that in like a, kind of crazy kind of way, but it's just more like I automate what I need to and I focus on being an artist where I need to. And rather than just doing brute force the whole way. It's amazing. The reason why I got into it, really briefly, because last year while I was at Mind Over Eye, there was this task that we finished a so-called 360 project for the web for Dodge, and we ended up with I don't know, I'm just saying 10 different colors of the same car, 36 images captured flying around the car in a 360 angle, and you have to imagine how many variations we ended up with and how many frames we ended up with. And there was a very, very specific requirement from the client how it need to be packaged in Photoshop. And I was told that on the previous occasion when the same thing happened, it took X number of days to do it. It was tedious, it was painful and terrible, and such a time waster, which from the business point of view was eating up the company's profit. Right.
Which is insane. So I had no idea how to script in Photoshop, but I decided that I was going to give it a go because I wanted to optimize that task. I wanted to click a few buttons and I wanted to automate it. And what I did, it was freaking challenging because it was quite a complex task. And I spent a couple of hours breaking it down into its components. So one was renaming everything by a specific standard. Second was grouping them into folders, etc. And I Googled certain scripts that did those tasks individually. And some of them fit my needs, some of them didn't. And because if I remember correctly, Photoshop uses Java. I have no idea about that, or any other programming language for that matter.
Sure.
I asked the Photoshop expert a couple of desks away from me, do you know JavaScripting? Only the very basics. Okay, this is the script, this is what it's doing, and this is what I need it to do. And he gave me a few pointers. So, long story short, I ended up with, I believe, 4 different scripts in Photoshop, which I grouped together in one batch processing element. And the only thing that I had to do by hand was renaming my files, batch renaming in Adobe Bridge, which was freaking fast. And then running that simple one single batch process, which consisted of those scripts I found and modified, etc. And the 5-day task, or whatever it was, took me about an hour and a half.
That's awesome.
And it was something that, it was an eye opener, I decided there and then, these drinks.
Well, actually, I mean, obviously we didn't plan to talk about this, but I'm kind of curious, like, while we're on the subject of what attracted you to doing the mentorship in the beginning?
Two things. For years, I have been mentioning it on my cover letter, CV, LinkedIn page that I'm very much into optimization, finding the efficiencies, get rid of the time wasters after identifying them, optimizing, automizing.
So as a CG supervisor, you wanted to get rid of artists?
No, it was a CG supervisor thinking how to enable the artist to do it faster and move on to the next one.
Great.
You know? No way to get rid of the artist.
I'm totally kidding.
It has to be a team. So that was one of the major motivating factors that I was really into that thing, but I never mastered it. I never got it even close. And the other thing is, which was going to be the next point of the conversation, which you tend to mention on the podcast, is the importance of mentorship, the importance of finding a mentor. I just realized it, at the age of 42, which I am, I had to realize that I never really had a mentor before.
Right.
I kind of had one, the architect we talked about at the very beginning, 10 odd years ago, but I never really had the mentor who would keep me on the right track or redirect me to a better one.
Right.
Who would push me when I wasn't pushing myself, etc. And before I signed up, what I did in a time span of 2 weeks at work, I listened to every single one of your podcasts.
Oh, cool! That's awesome.
Every single one of them, and it was, if I remember correctly, it was in the very first email I wrote to you that I felt after those, I felt so inspired, and I had this feeling, whether it sounds cheesy or not, I don't care, that I found a mentor I never had. That manager, supervisor, brother or father, doesn't matter who it is, or a random senior professional in a field you want to get into.
Absolutely, yeah.
I found it, and these two things coming together, the opportunity to learn building tools and being able to build feature quality effects, and hopefully utilizing the same knowledge, scripting and tool building knowledge to do everything else and speed of everything else I'm doing. That combined with the opportunity to be directly mentored and meet you face to face, mentored by you and meet you face to face, it was something I just couldn't simply go by.
That's awesome, man. Thank you.
No, thank you.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, I've definitely learned like the benefit to having access to people that even that you might consider the same level or whatever it's going to be. Like just having that instant access is so important, and most people don't have that. And for me, like the podcast, I never expected to be what it is, and I love it because every day I get emails from people who just give me a lot of really positive feedback on like jobs they've gotten and everything else. And for me, I kind of want to listen to it myself, just because it's more it's been an outlet for me just to kind of put. Before I did this, I did a lot of talks on it, but also did a lot of like mentoring in terms of I've got people in the industry who are just going to help with their careers, and even people that you work with on ID2. There's guys out there that I've been helping them with their stuff they're doing, but it's been kind of cool just for me to kind of find like a way to by making an output for it, it's kind of forced me to kind of structure it in a certain way. But it's been great, and like that's really great to hear that as well. I appreciate it.
I can only recommend it, and lately, I get a LinkedIn message from somebody telling me that I just need to find the motivation outside of work for this and that, or I need to find some ideas and tips for job interviews. Mm-hmm. And I keep sending them links to your podcast.
Oh, cool.
And I keep going back to certain episodes myself and re-listening to them because I always find new bits and pieces, that maybe they didn't catch my attention for the first time. And it's amazing.
Well, they're applying to what you're going through right this very minute.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the whole idea behind this conversation and recording it, that everything that I hear there, I have been either applying or I am or I'm going to, because they do work. And that's why I can wholeheartedly recommend it to anybody in the industry or wanting to get into the industry or outside of our industry. Certain things do apply.
For me, my intention's always been that this isn't just about like 3D or design or whatever. It's more, I'd like to think most of what we cover is stuff that you can apply, whether you're in architecture or whether you're in accounting. Entering through the side door, getting out of your comfort zone. None of that is restricted to what we specifically do.
It kind of made me awake about this whole mentorship thing, and my take on it is, don't just ask for it. You mentioned it a few times that certain people just hit you up and ask for a job or this or that.
Give me.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure rich people keep receiving those give me money and
Yeah.
I like to consider it in a completely different way. I'm asking for help, so enable me. And it's a two-sided thing. I find it important to be in the position where you are being mentored, and at the same time you are also mentoring someone or some people.
Yeah.
Because it's an amazingly rewarding experience, and I consider myself very fortunate to get to know you and got into this. And I have to mention Bob Coleman. You brought him up a couple of times.
I actually want to bring him on just because I've only met him once.
Yeah.
But we've kind of known each other for many years, and just the conversations we had, we chatted for 2 hours, and we know all the same people, and we've known the same people for about 10, 15 years. So, I just think that he'd be a great person just to kind of talk about the history of LA. And just as a kind of to cover that, Bob Coleman is the owner of Digital Artist Agency, which is as far as I know, the only CG agency in LA. So they typically will help everyone in LA find work, connect everyone. They know every studio because they've been around forever. Yeah. And in certain ways, I'll also sponsor visas and other stuff too. So they're pretty cool. Depending on what you're looking for, they could be a really vital part of your career.
Oh, absolutely. They are a team of three, Dan, and Bob.
Dan. Yeah, I've got to have lunch with him soon. He sent me a few emails, and I've just been swamped as you know. So,
I know. It's Bob is or DEA is my agency. They represent me, but first and foremost, I consider Bob my mentor because he has decades of experience of the visual effects industry in LA. Matter of fact is that internationally, and in spite of me being here in California for 2 years, I still only have scratched the surface in terms of industry experience and knowledge of the industry. And he just keeps he helps me to keep my head at the right place, looking at the right directions, getting in touch with the right people, teaching me about the quirks of the industry or the upsides and the downsides. It is utterly priceless. And like I said, I'm very fortunate to have mentors like him in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a really great and down-to-earth guy, and obviously knows everyone and knows a lot of what's going on. Like, I guess we'll touch on it for a second, but your interview with Uncharted when you went to work on Independence Day, like, you came in where you didn't have any feature film experience.
Correct.
And one thing that I find really hilarious, like, this isn't the situation here, but at a lot of studios, you typically go to, like, I get this a lot where people say, like, hey, I've been trying to get into double negative or whatever, and they say minimum of 4 years experience, okay? And the problem is everyone's like, well, where do I get this? You know, it's kind of like getting your name on the list, but you can only get on your list through a referral or something. It's like, where do I get feature film experience so that way I can get in to work on feature films at all these studios? And like Weta was one of the first studios to ever do that, where during Lord of the Rings, they would say minimum of 5 years feature film experience. Yeah. The thing is that, like, most people didn't have that. Unless you're from LA, no one had that. And it's such a tricky thing because it's like, well, how do I get through that? And like I'll just answer that and say that the trick is that most of the time that's just a filter. It's just a way to deter people from applying from those studios when they say you need this. It's more, if you think that you're not good enough to apply here, then don't. But getting sidetracked. But with you, like, you know, you jump into feature films. I mean, anyone who doesn't work in features, it's always a bit of a mindset shift. Like, as in, everyone does put features on a pedestal, and in a way, it definitely is like a bigger hurdle, a lot more challenges, but it's also a very fulfilling area to work in. But for you to kind of make that shift or go in there, because I know for you kind of wanted to pitch them on, like, look, I want to kick some butt and do all this stuff, but you got to believe in me to do it. Yeah. So, like, what was your whole experience like going into meet with Volker, you know, the VFX supervisor in all these big movies? And
when Bob mentioned the potential opportunity, it wasn't even an opportunity there earlier this year. He said that he described a situation that he goes way back with Volker, and Volker just started working on Independence Day 2, and he was looking for people. What I was told, he wanted to cherry pick people and assemble a team for Independence Day 2 for this high-end previs. And Bob told me that this might be an opportunity for you, but it's going to be a long shot. And he wanted to know if I was ready to leave my comfort zone and take not one but a few steps back, get back behind the desk like in school.
Yeah, rather than supervising, you'd be
exactly.
Yeah,
and take on the challenge. And the circumstances just, you know, played along. It came at the right time. And I said, without thinking much about it, I said, bring it on.
Nice.
To give it a go and set up an interview with Volker. And he would tell them that I have no feature experience, but I would come in as a sponge with a very extensive experience in my, at that time, current background.
Yeah.
And I got the interview, and that was the scary part. Because
you went with that handshaking with the paper again?
no sheets of paper in my hand. It was just a laptop. And
shaking though.
when you take a laptop, another piece of advice for every junior or anybody out there, besides do not hold a piece of paper at interviews or presentations or speeches. The other advice is do not hold your hand on the table because your palm will sweat. And when you lift your hand...
Oh, really?
Yeah, that patch on the desk, it will betray you.
Oh, man. You were talking about, I know Volker's office, like you're talking the main table near the wall, right? Like, because, I can picture that wall would leave a handprint.
So I was very conscious about just to keep my hands a few inches above the table.
Keep it under the table.
That may not set the best impression, but find a solution anyway. So I got the interview at the reception when I was signing in, hilariously. I saw your name. You signed in the day before I was there.
I had a meeting with Volker.
Yeah. And yes, the approach was that before I spoke to Bob about details, I thought that it would be a good way of trying to sell myself, pretty much the same way as I always do, describing who I am, where I'm coming from, and what kind of achievements there are next to my name. Mm-hmm. And I had a prep talk with Bob, mm-hmm. and he said, "Don't even think about that."
Yeah, don't go in saying, "Let me tell you my life story," and why let me show you pictures of my kids, and all the stuff that nobody is not going to benefit them.
Basically, I was going to, of course, focus only on the professional areas, but Bob said that forget about it. And this was, again, an eye-opener, which I should have known, or even if I did know it, I kind of just ignored it. That it's not about you. And if you go in, if you want to get an opportunity, you are pretty much asking for it. Mm-hmm. In a field area where you have no previous experience, regardless of your closely or not that closely related experience, then they don't want to hear that you are a supervisor and you got there via these achievements, etc. No, they don't care. They don't care, and that's one of the key points of our conversation. That to land the job or the interview, don't for a second try to sell them your desires. Mm-hmm. It's not about what you achieved, and it's not about what you want to achieve. It's not about your dreams. It's not about your personal desires.
Can you do the fucking job?
That's right.
Yeah.
For any potential employer, this is basically a business decision. Mm-hmm. They have a need. It's a technical skill, for example, that they need. It opens a gap. Can you fill that gap or not? Yeah. That's how far they look.
Yep.
Unless it's a growing company building a team, and they are not necessarily looking for a certain skill set, but they're looking for a certain personality. That's a different story. More often than not, that's not the case. They are looking for a skill set and a set of experience, mm-hmm. or amount of experience. And if you are just out of school, or you want to land the first major job, or at the very beginning of your career, please do bear it in mind and make sure that your approach is not going to be about what you want, but what they are looking for, mm-hmm. and that you are offering the exact same thing, or you are very close to grow into that position and be a very valuable member of the team.
You want to make sure that your interests align with them.
Absolutely.
Like the whole people emailing, let's say, the job letter saying, "Give me a job," like that doesn't benefit anyone. Yeah. You've got to look at the whole rule of negotiation is you got to think about what do they want. Yeah. And when we're talking about Volker, when we're talking about Katarina, when they're talking to someone, they're not saying like, "Great, like please tell me your passions and how you're going to put 110% into this job." It's like, no, like we will make you put in 150%. Yeah. We'll pay you for it, but we'll get 150%. But what they're looking for is we have 50 jobs, 50 positions, 50 seats to fill.
Exactly.
You are one. So if you say yes and we believe you and you can do the job, great. Cross you off, 49 to go, move on to the next thing. It's not about, please let's build this whole personal relationship. It's about filling the seat.
Absolutely. If your cover letter or whatever kind of introduction is telling them that I love your company, it would really help my career to have you on my CV. After the third word, your application goes in the bin because they don't care. They have a massive project at their hand. That project is broken down into stages. Those stages are broken down into tasks. There is the previous stage.
Yep.
It has various tasks, assets, animation, etc. So for assets, we need to create X number of assets. It will take us, according to our estimate, X amount of time. So we need X number of previous artists.
Mm-hmm.
So when you sit down with them, there is only one question on their mind. Can you do that job?
Yep.
You are a supervisor. Good for you. So what?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You are a lighting expert. Again, tell me, can you do this job? And make me believe or convince me, etc., that you can do this job.
And can you do it without me needing to supervise you too much?
Exactly. Yeah. And this was the tricky part of my interview with them, because Bob put my head back in the right place,
mm-hmm.
and he made me understand what the right approach was going to be. So I walked in, and I wasn't very keen on that approach, I have to say honestly, because it meant that I had to make myself so vulnerable,
right.
saying that, thank you for seeing me. The first thing you need to know that I have no feature experience.
Mm-hmm.
I have never worked on previs before.
Mm-hmm. I
understand what you are looking for. I understand the level you are targeting, because it was brought to my attention, and I looked it up, etc. But I haven't done it.
And I'm just going to interrupt for 1 second to say that for you feel really vulnerable because you feel like you're going to them and you're basically saying, let me point out what you could be seeing as weaknesses.
Absolutely.
But you feel, your interpretation of that is it's negative because you're basically pointing these things out.
Yeah.
But the thing is that like these are probably the stuff that they're worried about in the very beginning. And if you don't point these out, then it's kind of like a psychological thing. But if they're the one to bring it up, then whatever you say after that is you're being defensive. You're giving reasons and it sticks around. But if you bring it up ahead of time, you're actually diffusing the situation. You're actually addressing it. So that way it's like, look, I really want to work here. I love you guys. I love what you do. Right now, I don't have any previous feature film experience. I also have never done previews before. Yeah. But what I am good at is doing photorealistic car renderings, working within deadlines, needing to interpret what the client needs so that way I can do it without needing them to give me constant direction. So you diffusing those things, it means that when they've never put it on the table, it never becomes an issue. So as soon as they put it on the table, whatever you say, it's more of, okay, that was his response, not, okay, great, he addressed that. Cool, because I was wondering about that, and we were kind of worried about that, but thank you, that was addressed, and suddenly it goes away. So you're actually disarming them from all their stuff. The final thing I'll say, I heard this analogy the other day, which I thought was kind of funny, but someone referred back to 8 Mile, if you've ever seen the Eminem movie. Yeah. But, because I think it's very important to always disarm people of the ammunition that they're going to use in an interview. And but I never heard it applied to Eminem, which I thought was just so weird. But like, talking about like the final kind of battle he has with the guy, but like essentially what, with him, what he was doing was he's like, okay, well, here's all the things he's going to use against me. Like my friend shooting himself in the leg or whatever, me being white, me this, and this. So if I address all these things, then they've got nothing to go on. And it's kind of the same way of like with any kind of debate or anything you do. If you address all these things, you're taking that away from them. Yeah. So you go into that meeting and saying, here's all the things that you're probably on the fence about. Let me address them. Then suddenly they're going to be like, and again, it's kind of hard to explain that weight, but for them never putting it on the table, you kind of saying, I'm going to address this, and this. They're going to say, okay, great. Well, what can you give us now? Because it's not about, ooh, these are the warning signs.
Absolutely.
They're gone.
It was really interesting because the vulnerability factor.
Don't worry, I speak English, and vulnerability is always a hard word for me too.
Vulnerability. All right. Anyway, that factor came from, not in spite of the fact that you are a senior, confident, and accomplished professional. Mm-hmm. You cannot bring it up. And
my girlfriend's cat's like lingering around trying to find that fruit fly. Sorry.
I thought it was your foot.
You wish, buddy. You wish.
So it came from the fact that, as you said, you have to start with listing things that basically telling them that what you are looking for, I don't have that. But the way to approach it the right way is consider it like a sales pitch. You basically very openly and honestly start about what might be considered as weakness or considered everything that should make them say no.
Yep.
But you redirect the attention, because you can right after say, I'm only asking you to trust my demo reel, to trust how I convey myself, and trust what my agent and mentor said about me. If you give me the opportunity, when I come on board from the first day, no matter what, I'm going to deliver, and I'll be like a sponge. I just pick up everything. And that's why a while ago we talked about it. Keep asking for more.
Yeah.
When I was comfortable with one part of the workload, I asked for the other one. And you know what? We were right in the middle of the animating part. There was no time for training and sitting down with me and holding my hand. Deep water, the waves are way above your head.
Yeah.
And put up with it. Man up and keep asking questions.
Yep.
Right? Keep asking questions. You are not in the position to really want to impress them, because you don't have that kind of experience. So the way you have to impress them is not the really complex technical animation you throw together in a day. You impress them, and it goes back to the interview with your approach, your demeanor, your drive, your willingness to learn, and to bring all that experience you have built up through the years.
Yeah,
it might not be the hands-on experience to perfectly animate alien stuff flying in the frame, right? But everything in our field, or almost everything, is transferable. Just go in with the right attitude, and it's highly likely that you will convince them, and you will get the opportunity.
Yeah,
like I got it.
You're making yourself available by saying yes to everything, and that's another important thing. I think that, especially, like, obviously you've been doing this for 15 plus years. I mean, you're not new to it all, but I think that in the beginning of everyone's career, you should always say yes to everything, because you're creating those opportunities, and it's later on that you start saying no, or kind of more evaluating what you're doing. But I think it's so important with all this. And right, in this situation, you're the one saying gimme, gimme, gimme. But in terms of, you're in there and you want to help, so you're like, yeah, give me anything. And that's the kind of, if you can't blow them away just because, like, you've got guys like Andre who are just freaks of nature, and they're doing their thing, then what you can do instead is create confidence in your employer by saying, like, whatever we throw at Zsolt, like, he just nails it every single time, then suddenly they become more and more confident with you. And I was talking with Andre about this, with his relationship with Volker and with Roland Emmerich. And, we're having lunch a couple months back, and we're talking about this, and it's his relationship just started out the same way, where it's, he went in, he got their confidence, and the relationship kept growing. And so it's more about, if you go in and you make sure that you do a great job, everyone is happy with your work, but also while you're there, you start to get as much visibility as you can. So in other words, you go a bit above and beyond. It's not just, okay, I did the job. It's about, I did the job, plus I'm putting the extra work to make sure that people are aware that I exist. That way, when the job's over, let's say they're going to say, all right, time for ID3. Who do we bring on? It's like, well, who are the people that we remember from the last job? Like, let's bring those people back. You're going to be visible in their mind. They're going to want to bring you back. Bringing the band back together. It's
quite funny, because I had a few weeks after I joined them, I had a similar conversation with Andre. And the mindset is, when you get in, it doesn't matter whether it's a company you never worked before, even if you have a 10 plus years of industry experience, or it's your first job, it doesn't make any difference. when you get the brief, or you get the instruction, or you get the critique, Andre comes over and he says, okay, I like it, but can you do this? Can you adjust that? You are supposed to say one thing. Sure, I'm on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, nobody is interested in your comments, in your opinions. If after a while you are very experienced, the relationship has been built, the trust has been built, make suggestions as a question. Don't push it back on the critiquing. Just sure, I'm on it, and get it done. And that's the first thing that they will recognize, and that's the most important thing that will stick in everybody's mind, that whatever I ask this guy to do, he delivers and it works. I don't have to do anything with it. You know, supervisors don't like it. I don't like it if it comes to 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening, somebody finished something on that given day. They didn't send me an update email saying this is where I am, or this is what I finished.
And you have to chase it up yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I find something that's wrong, and I have to fix it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That person is not going to be on the list who I'm going to call for the next project.
Well,
right?
We were talking about like reels and getting stuff looked at. Actually, this is a good point about you were mentioning earlier about getting critiques on reels and stuff like that. But like, you know, for me, going back to Blur is a bit of an eye opener because I've reviewed thousands of reels, but the effects supervisor at Blur kind of like took it to a whole new level where he would look at someone's work, and if there's one thing that's wrong, he would then suspect, okay, well, maybe that one piece is the bit that the supervisor, you know, had nothing to do with, and that's the level of quality that he typically does without the supervisor being behind him cracking the whip. And so for him, it was more about eliminating his need to actually supervise. So what I found to be interesting was just the fact that he would disregard someone he wanted to hire 1 minute, would go to the bottom of the list just because there's like one little thing that he didn't feel was right about it, because he'd feel like, well, maybe the only reason his work is good is because he had a good supervisor. Yeah. And I've never looked at it that far where it's like, it's not about can they do the job. Suddenly it's like, can they do the job without me is what he was essentially looking for. And that's like a whole other level. Because for me, I'm like, can you do the job? And it's not about, can you do the job? Oh shit, I've got to supervise you. Like that's a whole, I'm there for that. So, but it made me realize like people were who were on the top 2 hire list were being dropped to the bottom or off the list entirely just because of that one little discrepancy. Yeah. So it's very cutthroat, but it makes me think, do other people think that way? Because if they do, then, all it takes is one little thing on your reel to completely be the reason you're not getting a job.
Which is harsh, but it's kind of the reality.
Yeah. But most of the time you don't know what it is.
No, and you won't get the feedback.
Yeah.
Just try to be the perfectionist and whoever you ask to critique your stuff, you need to hear the harsh reality. If 2, 3, 4 people says that I'm not sure about that shot, then either get rid of it or improve it.
Right. I'm listening. I'm checking the dates because one thing I was going to shamelessly plug. You know that
I know what's coming.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense. Actually, I think it will be the day before. So yeah. So the real review stuff, because like we did that with CG Society and Blur, and that was really cool. And I think the first one is the date that I'm going to be airing this thing is the very next day. So, so yeah, like that's at least something I've thought would be fun to do. And it's more a chance to get critiqued by someone who has no investment in you, but it's more about like me getting people on who've got lots of experience reviewing reels and who can say, look, these are the reasons why you're probably not getting a job, or this is what's going to help you be able to negotiate more money if you just cut that one thing or you made that thing better. And I think it's just a lot of key advice that kind of comes with that. So it's going to be fun to try it. I'm hoping it's going to be a monthly thing, but we'll see how the first one goes, I guess.
I think that's an amazing idea, and it will definitely help so many people. in a way, I was really, really touched and blown away when I was wrapping up at Mind Over Eye, and I had the opportunity for the interview at Uncharted, and I mentioned it to a couple of friends, and I told them that I have to cut my reel, and one of the creative directors, Ergen, and the editor, Andrew, both of them are considered amazing people and really good friends. Without being asked, they said that we give you the second pair of eye and we will help and cut your reel.
That's awesome. And
what was besides just the gesture and the time and effort they put into it, besides that, how amazing that was, it's they gave me a completely different perspective on the material that formed the base of my reel. And I've been having that material for a while, and after a while you just kind of lose the sense of or the ability of looking at it in an objective way. Everything becomes subjective. It's a pet project for you. You really like it because at the time it was a hit, whatever. No, doesn't matter the reason. And the end result is something that basically it represents that kind of critique that the importance of it we just talking about and discussing. And it's I love it, and I cannot be thankful enough for those guys for giving me their insights. It's
no, it's really good.
And now that you guys are doing that for everybody and anybody who is interested, it's kind of unheard of.
I think it's gonna be fun. It's definitely like the domain. I bought it. I have not set it up. I assume it'll be up. Well, it will be up by the time this podcast comes out. Is reviewmyreel.com. Just because I was just like, what could I find? But I just think it'd be something that would benefit a lot of people, and I think it'd be fun to do. I enjoyed doing the last time, and a lot of the guys who were actually on there were people I'd recognized the names of from courses and stuff like that. It was cool. It was a lot of fun. I think there's just, a chance that every month you can get people who, I think the other benefit is if you have a really good reel, I'm going to be putting it in front of guys who are VFX supervisors who are head of, big departments. And I'm sure if they saw someone's reel, they're going to be like, fuck, this guy's cool. Like, you should just email it to me and I'll hire you. You know what I mean? So I think there's going to be a lot of good opportunities to come from it.
Since my late teenage years, I wanted to explore the West, so to speak, which was when I was growing up, it was kind of a taboo, growing up in Eastern Europe. And if I remember correctly, people who had passports, they had the opportunity to go abroad to West once in every 3 years. So it was, I was always kind of intrigued by seemingly impossible things, etc.
Right.
And I tried Canada in 2000, and it worked out to a certain extent. But after a few months, it turned out that they were not going to give me a working visa because it falls under the subjective assessment of an officer. And this particular lady decided, and this was her reasoning, that no, because everybody can learn this. So maybe I grant something temporary for him so he can teach Canadians, but no, thank you, but no, thank you.
I'll just jump for a second to say that, like, that's one thing that always scares me is that after all the paperwork, after a year of processing, most places you go to, it comes down to the person you talk to at the airport. My experience when I got my Canadian work permit, I went in for even though I'd gone through all the process, I get there in Vancouver, I go into this room with this young, and I will say gorgeous girl, and it's going to set the tone of my whole experience in Canada, was that this girl was just totally cool as shit, and we talked for a little bit, and then she's like, welcome to Canada, rock on, and I did the whole rock sign, and so it was just kind of like this, you're used to this kind of straight shooter, complete opposite to you is like very straight shooter kind of people who are like, yeah, you know, sell me on why I should let you in. Yeah. But this person was just like cool as fuck. It was just like, you know, have an awesome time. And that was just kind of like the start of my whole trip to Canada, which was great. But you're right. Like all it takes is, and this is what scares me, is one person who's having a bad day and they have the power to say, nope.
Exactly.
And that's in a lot of countries.
So went back to Hungary with Bernadette, and couple of years went by. I was working. It was successful, etc. I loved it, enjoyed it, grew a lot. And when that company kind of disappeared because the owner sold it, it was 2004 autumn. Hungary just joined the EU in 2004 May, which meant that certain countries in Europe, the UK was one of them, you could go there with your passport and find a new life, establish yourself.
Hop on Jetstar, $50 later, you're €50 later, you're anywhere.
Exactly. And when I got to a point at that time that I was fed up and I really wanted to try my luck and myself, I thought, okay, let's go to the UK. And I told it to Bernadette that okay, I'm going to the UK.
It's like going out for a pack of cigarettes. Like, I'll be back in a few days.
Yeah, pretty much. It was like, okay, we don't really have we don't have money. We don't have anything. We have a bag of disappointment, and I want to kind of restart it and see what I can make out of it. See what how far I can push it myself, etc. So on finance, I bought a scooter, a small touring scooter, and I had about £100 in my pocket, $160 ish, and it was time to say goodbye on that given morning. And
get out of your comfort zone a little bit.
riding across Europe in October in freaking rain and cold, and feeling really alone and going to the UK to start a new life.
How far is the drive from like
some 1,200 miles?
Yeah, because like how far is Budapest from Prague? It's like
that's just a couple of hundred.
Yeah. And then from Prague.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I told it to Bernadette that I'm going to do this, she said,
"You're crazy.
You're going to do what?" And I said, "No worries, no worries,
mate."
I get there, I find a job, I settle down, establish something, and in 3 months' time, you and the dogs, I come back for you, and we will reunite, and we will be happy as Larry.
Yeah, well, you're in a way creating your own reality. You're like, okay, I'm going to go and do this because the other way isn't working.
The only thing that was certain is that I was going to get frozen, and I had some accommodation in next to London for a while, and after a week, I landed a job which had got nothing to do with CG, but it was a technical job with transferable skills to be applied, with a company car and a laptop.
Great.
And I felt like I won the lottery.
Well, I'll just say that by doing that, you're buying yourself time. You created that safety bubble to then move to the next thing, and that's what you should be doing.
On the other hand, it was something really low paid, and long story short, the initially estimated 3 months, it was actually a year.
Okay. So
I was flying back and forth between the UK and Hungary. I only saw my wife, I don't know, every 3-4 weeks.
Oh man, it's tough.
It was tough, but we rode through it, you know, We made it happen.
It's an investment,
It was a massive investment. It came at a price, mainly emotionally.
Sure.
But, it's all about what you say about on the course, for example. If you apply yourself, and that's what it is. You just have to apply yourself. And I would lie if I said that there were no kind of failures or slaps in the face and moments when I thought that, okay, I just want to be with my wife, and I just want to be home. And I was quite close to turn back, because I was as alone as my pinky.
Mm-hmm. I've never heard that analogy, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think they call it pinky in the UK. Anyway,
English people. I'll get sold back to.
Yeah, and now bottom line is that after 2 years being in that job, I found a company in Yorkshire. They were hiring. Sent in the application. They never responded, and I located the company. I went there, and I wanted to speak to the person who was responsible for the hiring. The receptionist told me that she didn't work there anymore. And for some weird reason, the guy who was actually in fact for recruitment, he was just walking by me. He heard my question addressed to the receptionist, and he said, "Let's sit down in the meeting room."
Wow.
And that was the actual proper professional start of my almost decade-long life in the UK.
That's awesome. That's cool. Yeah. And again, like it all comes down to making that opportunity happen. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Going back to the beginning of our conversation, create your own opportunities and go for them. And keep answering your question. Visa, getting into the US. This is by no means legal advice. This is purely my personal experience, and I'm more than happy to elaborate it to anybody who is willing to get in touch and ask questions. There are various ways to get a working visa in the US, and personally, based on experience, I don't recommend the generic working visa, which is the H-1B, because the main reason is you can apply for it in a given period of time. I believe it's April or May. You have a very short window, a week or a couple of weeks, before they say that the allowed number of applications that can come in has reached a cap. So that's it for this year. If you are lucky and if you get it, you can only start working for that company a few months later. You put in the application in April, May. Yep. When you can work starts at the 1st of October. Very restrictive. Let's just not talk about it any further. I don't think it's the right option. So when I was looking into it, the O1 visa was brought to my attention.
The Rockstar visa.
The Rockstar visa. And somebody said that they got legal advice. It looks like the O1 is a potential visa that might work. So do your research. I said, all right, Google O1 visa. You get on the USCIS website, and the actual name of the O1 visa.
Extraordinary. Yeah.
Alien of extraordinary ability. And they bring up a few examples. People who won an Oscar. People who won an Emmy.
Yep.
People who reached their pinnacle in science. And I thought, are you freaking kidding me?
So, yeah. I was trying to think of, basically, the peak of any industry, which is going to be intimidating, I'm sure.
Yeah, you have to be on the top of your game. You have to be recognized by industry peers.
Stephen Hawking could get a O1.
He could. You could. You had.
But Yeah, so you were looking into that.
Yes. It was extremely intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it wasn't just intimidating. It looked like Mission Impossible.
Sure.
You know, and I thought, you know what? I had that feeling before.
Mm-hmm.
I said the impossible mission in front of me before, and it worked out. So let's just look into it.
Yeah.
And basically, bottom line is that there are a certain number of criterias out of which you have to meet X number. I don't remember the exact numbers, but let's say that there are 10 criterias, and the requirement is that you have to meet 6.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, okay, let's look into those criterias. Number 1, you have to have an international award, such as an academy award, and let's take that off the list.
Sure.
I don't have that, and eventually you find a few criterias that you think that, okay, I currently do not meet those criterias, but let's just think about it. You need a couple of support letters from industry experts or industry professionals who achieved, like I mentioned, the pinnacle of their career. And okay, let's look into that. Mm-hmm. So in our industry, you think of a few places, people, companies, giants who have the name and a support letter from them worth gold.
Yeah,
literally, it can open a door, or at least start your journey towards actually qualifying for the O1 visa.
So you go to San Francisco to Starbucks in the Presidio next to ILM, and every single person who walks in there, you're like, hey, if you work for ILM, can I please get a support letter from you? I'll buy your Starbucks, just sign here. I'm pretty sure that would work. I mean, I like the way you think that you're willing to say, okay, well, let me deconstruct. Like, even something as intimidating as, okay, this is a visa that typically is set out for like people who are a set status. Well, let me deconstruct this and figure this out rather than just turning away. Basically, it's to me, it's troubleshooting and problem solving. Yeah.
If I come across a rendering or lighting issue, you have to have a thorough understanding of being able to recognize that type of problem. Mm-hmm. Therefore, you can narrow the source down, where it can come from, what it can caused by. Mm-hmm. So, deductive problem solving. You are eliminating various factors, and you are narrowing it down.
Right.
So basically, that was my entire approach towards the O1 visa. Let's focus on one step first. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's forget about the Academy Award. Let's forget about being an alien of extraordinary ability. Let's focus on criteria you have to meet. It comes down to that. Yep. It's kind of black and white. And okay, I know a gentleman at Autodesk. Mm-hmm. I have met Vlado from Chaos Group before. Mm-hmm. There is this really well-known British automotive photographer I have never met before, but he accepted my invitation on LinkedIn. This kind of things.
Right. I like that. About you just go on LinkedIn, someone accepted you, so
exactly.
Why not approach them?
Industry forums.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned Paul Hallard.
Exactly. CG Society.
Yeah.
So you think about how to approach these guys. You cannot go through the door head first and say, hey, you don't know me, but this is what I need. Mm-hmm. Don't ever do that.
But you think if you reverse and say, well, what would they be interested in? Like, what's in it for them? Then you can, and in some cases, like we'll mention Paul Hallard, like it's more, he's just a generous fucking guy and willing to help others,
Exactly.
And that's just it. Like you,
and you just honestly describe your situation that, I'm having this dilemma that I'm chasing my dream job, my dream life. I set my eyes on California, etc. Would you be willing to help me out? Of course, you cannot really offer anything in return. So,
if you go to gift.com, gyft.com. No, I've actually done it from time to time, not as a carrot on the stick, but it's sometimes good just to show at least some appreciation of like send people a Starbucks gift card, and like it actually goes a long way because people feel like, okay, well, that wasn't so nice of them, they didn't need to do that. So
absolutely, and what really kind of shocked me that I did not have to ask twice.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? It was mind-blowing. In fact, there were people who told me that you are not the first and not the last person who approached me with this.
Yeah.
Tell me what you need.
Mm-hmm.
With some people, it was as simple. And that blew my mind. I was so touched that I cannot begin to describe.
It's also kind of a good thing too, because I think that people who, it's kind of one of those things that like if they've done it before, then they realize like how it's not a big deal. Whereas other people, they might be like, I don't know what this is and it sounds really complicated. And so in a way, targeting people who've done it a lot, they're like, okay, no problem. And I've had that before where I've got friends at like Pixar who have helped me and written me letters. Yeah. And the thing is that then they're like, hey, well, it's actually my turn to do my O1. Can you fill mine out too? So it's kind of like, you're both in a position to help each other. So why not?
So, the bottom line is that I consider myself being in debt of a few people forever who helped me out with the support letter.
Great.
Paul is one of them. Jamie William at Autodesk is one of them. There was this guy, Nigel Honeyman. He's not just known in Britain, but worldwide for his automotive photography work.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't know who I was. And he was, I called him to follow up whether he requested whether he received my email request. And naturally, he was a little bit reserved. Dude, I don't really know you. So, and I thought that I offered that if you are willing to consider it, I'm not asking you just do it on the blind. I would drive to you. He lived a 3-4 hour drive from me.
Wow.
Yeah, it was long. And he said, okay, we can try. And I said, I can get in my car in 10 minutes.
Oh, no way.
And let me tell you this. I drove there close to Birmingham from London, and I had an amazing introductory conversation with Nigel.
Mm-hmm.
And you won't believe this part. When we finished our chat about the industry, about people we mutually know, about what I wanted to achieve, what I was dreaming of, it turned out he didn't tell me before that he in fact was an O1 visa holder.
Oh, no way.
So he exactly knew what it was about, what I had to go through, what, the journey I set myself on.
Yeah.
And when we got up from his dinner table, he gave me an envelope.
Mm-hmm.
He already wrote and signed that letter.
That's great.
It was, again, I keep using this phrase, but for the lack of a better one, it blew my mind that there are people out there who are like that. Mm-hmm. And you just have to cherish those relationships.
Yeah.
And you have to find the time to sit down with those people or get on a call on Skype from time to time, because these are the people who you just have to keep in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever the opportunity comes, offer any kind of payback.
Yeah.
Anything.
Well, that's it. You make your own personal network, and it's not a network like having people on your LinkedIn. Yeah. It's about these are the people that you will help out and they will help you, and you all grow together.
And it gave me such a boost that, you know what, this O1 visa, forget about the official definition, extraordinary ability. This is a challenge, and it can be done.
Yep.
It can be done.
Just like anything.
Exactly.
And I like the fact that you're someone who is making those opportunities. You're like, okay, contacting complete stranger and get him on the phone and be like, I'll drive out to you, fill out this thing because it'll help me get to my goal. Like most people are going to be like, it sounds like a lot of work. What if I fail? I better not even try. So that I think is a very healthy trait to have. It
was amazing that I had letters, and only 2 came from personal friends. Mm-hmm. It was kind of a personal challenge. I said to myself that I didn't want these letters from friends, but the support letters and they came from people who I never worked with, but they looked into my background, they looked at my work, they wanted a face check, understandably, and they were more than willing to help out. So suddenly I was on my way to be granted an O1 visa. And the rest of the factors, like I said, I'm more than happy to elaborate on it to individuals if they are interested. It is achievable. Bottom line is, and this what makes it a little bit risky, that it comes down to a subjective personal assessment of a officer at USCIS. But believe me, if I was able to do it, you know, one of the thousands or tens of thousands of aspiring artists starting from my bedroom in Hungary from 10 odd years ago, if I can make it, anybody can make it.
Yeah.
Just apply yourself to it and surround yourself with the people who you can learn from and give back. You know, do the same thing with people who are willing to learn from you and to be mentored by you. Then you can make it.
No, that's great. That's really great advice. And I think you're right. Like, to end it on that, like, it's so important to give back and not just, you know, gimme, but actually focus on giving back too. This has been great, man. Like, I think we'll start to wrap it up there. But I mean, the stuff that you've given, I think, is really valuable advice. So it's been great, man. Thank you.
No, thank you. I'm eternally grateful.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that you found it to be beneficial. For me, I found it to be very inspiring and to be something that I really loved listening to and being a part of. So just as a heads up, if you want to leave any comments, check out the show notes, all that good stuff. Go to alanmckay.com/40 for episode 40. And on top of that, one thing I've been heavily doing a lot of recently is if you get on the Inside Circle list, the VIP list, just by going to my website, you can enter your email address to get on there. I'm giving away a lot of really great information. I've been giving out a lot of email scripts, a lot of really great advice, a lot of PDFs, a lot of other files and other good stuff, and opportunities to be a part of stuff that I haven't publicly announced yet. So if you want to be a part of that, just go to my website, alanmckay.com. So ALLANMCKAY.com. So that is something that even this week I've been doing a lot of work on that and building a lot of stuff up. So get in there and really enjoy and benefit from a lot of the free high value content that I've been putting up on there. So in addition to that, I've got some other cool announcements coming up very soon. In addition to that, next episode or episode of the podcast is going to be with the guys from Gears of War. So a lot of us are nursing a really bad hangover after Dan Rorty and a lot of the guys at Microsoft flew in this week for E3, and we all met up at Venice Beach yesterday and ended up drinking from Venice Beach through to Santa Monica to Beverly Hills and everywhere in between. Had a lot of bars, a lot of food, and I don't think any of us are really feeling too great today. I think Dan and I were up till about 2 or 3 a.m. watching Game of Thrones, smoking cigars, and drinking 40-year-old Pirate Cask 1623 rum, which was a good way to end the evening. But today it's almost 8 p.m. and I'm finally at my desk getting some work done. So that kind of says a little bit about what kind of evening it ended up being. But ice baths, as I always kind of mention, I stand behind, definitely have helped me kind of bounce back a bit here. So that's going to be a really cool episode. I'm getting the character guys from Gears of War. So there's going to be 3 of us, or 4 of us, I should say, discussing a lot of the creature development for Gears of War. I think it's going to be a really cool episode, and that's going to be episode 41. All right, so that is it. I will leave it there. And if you want to leave any comments, I'd love to hear from you. So just check out the show notes, alanmckay.com/40. And that's it for now, guys. I'll see you next time.